Hi, y'all. This is Kristen Chenoweth.
Hi, I'm Gloria Stefan.
This is Sarah Bareilles.
Hi, I'm Patti LuPone.
This is Lin-Manuel Miranda. You're listening to the Broadway Podcast Network.
Welcome to the Theater Podcast, intimate personal conversations with theater's biggest names, and now part of the Broadway Podcast Network. This episode you're about to listen to is the first of many episodes that will kick off a Moulin Rouge takeover for the month of February, Love Month. So what better show to have gracing your eardrums than, of course, all the cast and a few creatives from Moulin Rouge. So Tam Mutu plays the Duke, the bad guy. I really liked my conversation with him. We got into basically how he made the Duke real. Nothing against Richard Roxburgh, who played the role in the film, but the way that Tam plays it is very real, very sinister, whereas in the movie it was a little bit comical, a little bit like a caricature. So the way that he plays the Duke in the musical, there is a moment when you're like, hey, is Satine actually going to pick the Duke over Christian? This is really weird. But along with all of that, we get into the horror that was the scandal of Rebecca. He was originally cast in Rebecca back in 2011. That was supposed to be his Broadway debut, and you can Google the hell out of that because that's a story of scandal and the FBI got involved and blah, blah, blah. We talked about that. He comes from the West End. Believe it or not, he actually is British. He was saying that at the stage door, people were saying that they were surprised he was actually British because he does the British accent in the show. And he was like, yeah, of course. But he was a jock growing up, decided just to get into acting where he just seemed to find his place. He found his tribe, and the story is very great. It's very natural. So before we get into it, as always, please visit me online at thetheaterpodcast.com. You can subscribe at theater_podcast on Instagram and Twitter. Please leave a rating, leave a review, tell your friend. And now everyone enjoy this episode with Tam Mutu.
Here you go. 1, 2, 3.
You may recognize my guest today from his TV appearances on The Walking Dead, Bluebloods, and Sherlock, or for being on stage in Doctor Zhivago on Broadway and Love Never Dies in London. Now playing the Duke in the smash Broadway hit Moulin Rouge the Musical, Tam Mutu, welcome to the Theater Podcast.
Hello, thank you very much for having me.
I love that accent.
Thank you very much.
It's
fake.
I was going to say, is your Duke accent a real accent? But no,
I
it's
have
just
been asked that, actually. After the show, people are like, oh, you are British. Actually, even someone came once and said, well, he's not British. They said that to Danny Burstein after the show. They're like, no, he is British. No, he's not. I'm British. He's not British. I swear to God, that's the thing. Like, okay.
They thought your accent was
just phony.
Was so bad.
It was, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, well. So your name, Tam Mutu, what is the heritage? Where's the origin of the family name?
So Mutu is a Turkish name. Tam is also like Turkish name. So it's my dad was fully Turkish. My mum's Italian, Irish. And interesting that you brought this up because I literally did my ancestry recently.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I did. I just thought, let's have a look and see what it's, And you'd think, which is kind of interesting about it, you think that because my dad was, obviously you think it's half and half, you half your parents. So you think you'd be predominantly Turkish because, my dad was, fully Turkish, my mom's Italian, Irish. Mm-hmm. But that's apparently not how it works. So my percentages...
Genetics are funny.
Yeah, I was like, wow, that's kind of fascinating. But I don't know why you'd think that, but that's just maybe just a logical way of looking at it. But it turned out that my percentage was 60% Italian and then 20% Irish, Scottish, and then 13% Turkish was after that. And then a few others like them had a bit of Persian and other like sort of Asian sort of side. So yeah, it's kind of random. But it's a Turkish name. But weird, right? So you kind of think, because I remember growing up at school, like everyone used to call me improper names referring to my Turkish background. But like the irony is actually, I'm more Italian, so it's kind of just different. I was kind of like, oh, okay, that's kind of fun.
I thought Mutu was Japanese.
There is a lot. I do get a lot of that. I get that, and I also get Kiwi as well. People think there's a sort of a Kiwi element into it, but No, it's kind of Turkish name.
All right, so tell me about where you grew up. You're British, right? So you grew up in the UK somewhere.
I grew up in a little town in a little fishing village called Hastings, what it was back in the day, which is not far from Brighton, which is quite popular with the royals. It's about an hour and a half away from London, southeast coast, right on the water.
Are you upset with all this royal business with them? Like, what is it, Harry and Meghan being like? No, we're just done now.
I don't know. I just I try not to get into it, to be honest, because the thing that I would say was, each to their own, I guess. But it's difficult when you've been. I don't know. I don't want to get political now. It's kind of difficult. I find it difficult to sort of, when you've been sort of funded by taxpayers to then go, oh, we just want to do our own thing now. But it's like, well, you've been. I don't know. It's a funny line. We'll steer away from that because that could be a whole podcast in itself.
Well, yeah. Okay. So it's like, all right. I hear you.
I think it's messy. I think it's a messy situation. I don't think. Obviously, being here, I'm sort of out of it, and you get both sides. I sort of get both sides from my family back home, and then people here. So I don't know what I really think. They're still human beings at the end of the day.
Well, they want their privacy.
Yeah, I get that.
I get it too. I mean, when you're like second or third or whatever they are in line, excuse my American ignorance. I don't know when he would be president,
yeah.
He's like, just screw it, whatever. But anyway, back to Broadway. Or back to you, rather. What was your childhood like in the UK? Like, did you perform? Were you a singer, dancer?
No, not at all. I was very much what you guys would call a jock. I played a lot of sports, mainly football, which is your soccer. Mm-hmm. I got to quite a high level and didn't actually start doing any performing, well, proper performing, I'd say, which is until I was about 16, 17, I don't think, around then. And that was kind of like the equivalent of like a summer stock sort of what we call amateur dramatics, which is, you do a musicale and go along, and all these people of various ages come along for their time off on the weekends, and then you do a show at a later date. It was kind of random, really. Friends of mine just dragged me along one time to like an open call, because they were looking. I think back at that time and there was a mass shortage of boys to do sort of musicals. So you'd find a lot of girls playing boy parts. So it was, me being a guy going in there, quite jockey, and I think they were quite surprised. So, and then after that, I did one, and then I think my first show was Half a Sixpence, which probably no one's ever heard of. And then it went on, and I think I did Barnum and My Fair Lady. And
well, what made you decide to cross over?
I don't know. It's kind of weird. It's like people ask me that. I kind of had fun doing it. I mean, sports was my life for a significant amount of time, and then I kind of got a little bit disillusioned with it all. And this was much, I wouldn't say much more fun, but it was fun in a different way. So I kind of found it was different people. There were like older people there, girls there. I mean, I was just used to being around boys in shorts. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of, after a while, that can get a bit tiring, I think. And I just found it interesting and so alien to what I'd been used to. My school as well, we had like a sort of choir, which I could, everyone had to sing hymns in the morning. So I kind of like did a little bit of singing. I didn't realize I could sing maybe as well as I could have. So that was kind of another find as well. And then I literally just kept going and going and going. And before I knew it, I was auditioning for drama school. And then I was in drama school. And then I was graduating from drama school to go and do shows in the West End. It was crazy. I always like sort of give the analogy of like I literally stepped on a train, excuse me, knocking the mic, and have never got off. It's literally been one of those. Because I'm not one of those people that's going to say, oh, I've always wanted to be an actor or, a lovey darling. I haven't at all. Never, never, never. So it's kind of wonderful in a sense. And
so your parents, I mean, were they understanding, or was, I'm trying to like kind of pick apart maybe a stereotype that I suffered from, which was that I loved singing, dancing. And then all of a sudden I get to my high school years when I'm impressionable, and then all of a sudden it's like in a small town in North Carolina where people may not be as open-minded as they are in other places. I got made fun of, and my parents didn't help me really.
Right.
But like anyway, like, you see what I'm trying to say? Was it an easy transition just to be like, I'm going from soccer and, sports over to
Something very different.
to something very different? Yes.
I wouldn't say it was easy because I was still, to start off with, I was still very much playing sports alongside it, which was difficult. And then obviously your teammates find out, and then the opposition teammates find out, and then it's like, because I played for various teams, and sometimes you'd go on long journeys, coach rides, and all the rest of it, and there would be a lot of ribbing going on, and jokes at my expense. But I just kind of like, I had other friends. I think what happened was, as I got a bit older into like my late teens, my pool of friends sort of evolved, and there were more sort of artistic people came into my life. Some of my best friends are actually all brothers, actually, from England and Hastings, and they kind of like opened my eyes a bit into other things. One of them was very much into movies and sort of creative, like that sort of thing, and one of them was an artist, another one is like a performer. So to be around that sort of group of people made me sort of like open my eyes a bit more, other than to just a sports life. As far as my parents were concerned, I think my dad found it slightly odd. My mum was always been supportive. I think she just enjoyed the show. She's always liked musicals anyway, so it was kind of, I don't know, it's kind of like just, I just did it, and then people just sort of grew to accept it, I think.
Well, then when was your West End debut?
I literally left drama school a little early because I auditioned for Les Mis. We actually had a resident director from Les Mis came in, directed our third year first show in my final year of drama school. He came and directed the show, and then he said I think we did Closer Than Ever, I think, and there were 4 of us, and he asked us all to come and audition for Les Mis, just as experience and all the rest of it. Well, none of us thought we'd get in, but ironically 3 of us actually got in, and we all left drama school early, which was great, but also has its own, I would generally say finish your course, but at that time it was difficult to say no. So that was 2001. I think I went straight into that.
So you were, okay, so 2001, you were in the UK doing West End shows for a while, and then, if I have my timeline right, 2011 was supposed to be your Broadway debut, yeah?
Right.
You made a face.
The infamous.
The infamous Rebecca.
Yes, that was supposed to be. I think I was doing chess in Toronto at the time, and I got a call say they wanted to audition for Rebecca, me to come in for Rebecca, for Michael Blakemore and the team, and I was like, okay. So I flew in, did my thing, and learned all the material and had the audition, and it all went rather well. And then after I finished chess, I flew back to England, and I think I was literally packing up my flat, my apartment. And that day, then I got a call from my agent that day. Literally, I think we'd packed 3/4 of my apartment. I'm not kidding. So I was surrounded by boxes, and then I got a call from my agent saying, it's being postponed. The rest is kind of like, all on the internet. It was pretty shabby. It was pretty shabby, shambolic all around, really.
Well, and yeah, you guys,
we had the marquee up and everything, so it was kind of like,
yeah, you were strung along for so long, and then at some point, like, you and Sierra Boggess left. I mean, like,
well, yeah, because they couldn't. They kept saying, "Oh, we're going to get it organised," and it never sort of materialised. But then when we sort of stepped aside, and I went, and I think I ended up then going back into Les Mis, actually, as Javert, and then I saw that they'd cast it again with other. I think it was Claire Page, is it? I forget her name, and Ryan Silverman, And then they went through it all as well, and I felt so sorry for them as well because obviously they pulled the plug on them as well.
Yeah.
Shocking.
I mean,
it happens, but I mean, maybe not in that sort of
what was
that
going
drastically.
through? Yeah, what was going through your head at this point? I mean, because you were excited, you think you're going to make your Broadway debut, and then the rug gets pulled out from under you. Like, were you okay? Because it sounds like you went back into Les Mis.
Yeah, it was. I don't know. It was so surreal. It's like I'm always one of those people. People may sometimes think I'm a bit more cynical or a bit more. I don't show mass emotion all the time, especially even when I get jobs, because I kind of sit on the fence of like, until I'm actually doing it, I don't believe it. It's kind of like when a sports team sign a player and there's all this mass media furor about it, and I literally say, I don't believe it until he's holding up the shirt or wearing the shirt, running around the field,
right?
Whatever, any team,
right?
So, and that's that's how I kind of am, because people always say, "Oh, aren't you excited?" And like because people want to sort of feel good and make you feel like congratulate you and all these things. But I don't know. I'm just a bit more reserved with all that sort of stuff. So.
Like once bitten, twice shy.
It surprised me, kind of thing, but then it didn't surprise me because I know this business is pretty brutal at the best of times. So it taught me a lot. You just kind of go, okay. And I think after that, actually, I probably became more, reserved with things, because you sort of have to protect yourself as well.
So then Doctor Zhivago was your debut in 2015 then?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So we get there. Everything's good. 2019, last year, Moulin Rouge the musical. My God. Okay, so I was reading you almost didn't audition for this show.
Yeah, that's true. I had, I think I had got 2 auditions at the same time. I think it was Pretty Woman and Moulin Rouge. And obviously they were both, going to be, you thought going to be mass hits and successful. And I know Jerry, obviously, from working with him on Love Never Dies. Jerry Mitchell is the director of Pretty Woman. And he'd spoken to me about coming in, and I kind of just from like the basis of what the films were and what I thought they were going to try and do, I thought, well, the Pretty Woman is a better fit for me because just character-wise. So I said to my agent, I read the Moulin Rouge, what they'd sent at the time, and it's evolved massively since then. But at the time, I was like, I don't know about this. I just think I kind of got the feeling they didn't really know where they wanted the character to go. It was kind of like the movie still, but it wasn't. I didn't think it knew what it was yet. And so I just said, I'm not feeling that. I don't think I'm going to go in for that. And I think I sent an email actually. So I was too chicken to say I'm not going in. And then literally within minutes, I got a phone call from Kirk. He was like, "You're going in." Who's
Kirk? Your agent?
Yeah. He was like, "You're going in." And there's nothing else to say on the matter. I was like, fine. So I went in and I met the team, and everyone was very lovely. And I think this was originally for the Lab, which was downtown, because we've been doing this since 1964 now, I think, this show.
Since before you were born, you were auditioning.
It was, it was for the Lab downtown. And the rest is kind of history. It kind of went very well, obviously, and the part evolved into like what it is today. And it's, it was a good decision on behalf of my agent, not myself.
Well, the original role from the movie, played by Richard Roxburgh, he's kind of a caricature,
right? Like
he's a bad guy, but he's sort of this comical caricature, which I like. The way that you play the character is like more sinister,
right?
Yeah.
Well, that was because I loved Richard's performance as well, and if it was going to be exactly like the movie, then chances are I wouldn't have been cast. So because he is more buffoony and more, it's like you could say it's more caricature, but he does it so well. But you always got the feeling that he would never ever be like a viable option for Satine. I don't think she would ever choose him in a million years. Mm-hmm. And the team were very much on board with trying to create this love triangle between Christian, Satine, and the Duke, to sort of like, so he actually would be something that was a viable option in terms of whether it be, even though it's more financial, but like actually there was more to him than just money. Mm-hmm. Like, he was charming, he was, meant to be good looking. Not saying that I am, but all those other things which people sort of look for. Christian sort of sweeps off her feet with his innocence and in a different way. So there's supposed to be massive polar opposites in a sense between the two characters, but then with Satine in the middle. So when I found out that when we started to evolve the piece and it became more, he became slightly. What I like about it is I get to play all these different sort of characteristics of him. So this still honors the movie to an extent where there's some buffoonerism in it, even if that is a word. But more so, then I get the flavors of fun, charming, and then the sinister stuff sort of kicks in the second half, which is great because then the character it's more enriching. I think it's more fun to play.
Well, working with Alex Timbers, the director, how much of the character evolution, I guess the final product that what we see on stage now, how much of it was him kind of guiding you, or were you coming to him with I don't want to be this comical buffoon. I want to really play him like a real, I'm kind of thinking like Gene Hackman.
Yeah, the team was so good with that though. That's why with John, the book writer, and Justin and Alex. Justin's the musical dude, and Alex obviously the director. And the team were really good because obviously from the first lab, I think my song choices, even that, that makes a massive difference between to how the character is seen. So I've gone from the potential of singing George Michael songs, which we did in the lab, like Faith and Father Figure and things like that, which has now evolved into Rolling Stones and Sympathy for the Duke and Sympathy for the Devil, but Sympathy for the Duke is the song in the show. And what was wonderful about it, Alex would always ask and say, if you have ideas, and it was very much an open sort of book of what felt right, where do we think this character was going, what was relevant, what we were, what was going to make the arc of the character more interesting, and I think they were very open to all of that. So there were times when things were cut, which we thought shouldn't be cut, and when things were in there. And I think that one of the main things I said was the song choices were the things I had a major issue with, because it just didn't fit with what we were trying to do. I think it fit more with the movie version of him. Mm-hmm. So when Justin came back and said, okay, we're doing you Rolling Stones medley, I was like, well, hello, what more could you ask for, really?
Right. Yeah, Sympathy for the Duke, it's a mashup of 3 Rolling Stones songs, right? Sympathy for the Devil, You Can't Always Get What You Want, and Give Me Shelter. And then you also get to sing Rihanna's Only Girl in the World.
Yeah, which has always been there, but it's always been a good it's a good song choice because it's interesting. It's always interesting to sing a girl's song as well, but from that perspective of the darkness of him when it starts to become a bit sinister in the second half. And the manipulation of Satine and the club owners and all the rest of it. It's a good one to have in there because it's fun as well. It's kind of like that kind of twisted fun.
Which one's your favorite? Do you have a favorite?
Oh, it varies actually. I do still really enjoy singing the Rihanna. It's fun, but I guess I'd say Sympathy for the Duke is probably the fun song, probably.
Do you get audience feedback in the middle of the show, or do you see more at the stage door?
Mostly, I don't know, a bit of both, I guess. But during the show, it happens. We all say when we were in Boston, it was kind of a shock to the system when we started to hear people's reactions to what we were singing, because obviously they're going to have their own sort of history with each song that we sing, and you kind of can hear the shock value of what they're hearing and what they're experiencing. And obviously we're just trying to tell a story through that song, but to people in the audience, it's going to have a different sort of relevance to them, and part of their lives, or whatever, however you want to put it. But it was shocking at first, but as we got used to it, it's kind of you kind of expect it now, and it's fun to hear. I mean, do you hear people talking to you or at you when you're leaving stage?
I have had
that. Yeah, I've had. I get the odd hiss, but then the most famous one was when I was was in Boston again, and someone, as I was leaving the stage, someone shouted, "You suck!" I was so taken aback. I remember stopping. It stopped me in my tracks, and I literally looked out and forgot I was on stage for a second. I was like, "Is it me, or is it the character, or both?" And then left with my tail between my legs. But it was kind of funny in the moment. I was so shocked, but it was so loud as well. Yeah, you suck. You can't really beat that, I don't think. But I do get the hisses, like, the odd hiss, and I think people think they're watching a pantomime in England.
Well, it's with just the high energy. I mean, gosh, the choreography too, and the singing, the arrangement, like everything. You walk in, and it's just you're in this atmosphere. The house looks like so much of what I've never been inside the Moulin Rouge myself, but like from what I remember from the movie, you've got the elephant and you've got the windmill and it's just the whole house was transformed.
Yeah,
so it's not just like, a proscenium, but it's in there. And I get the feeling that some people think or get the perception it's more like a rock concert than a Broadway show.
Yeah, I think, I can see why you'd say that, because it's so immersive, all of it. And even when you go in, you've got the pre-show with everybody, in there, and it's surreal and it's sexy and cool, and the colors are so vibrant and warm, and I can see why people sort of lose their minds, because I personally think that set's the most beautiful set I've ever seen. But it's rock concert, you can see that. I mean, some Saturday nights are like wild. I mean, literally, we had one a couple of weeks ago, which was just unbelievable. People do want to sing along as well. We do get that, and you just sort of have to block it out. But you don't want them to not do that either. You want them to have a good time, because that's the whole point of it.
Right. So
it's, unless they're standing up in the aisles and going crazy, no, they don't do that. It's not. We've not had that so much, but they do get very vocal.
At the stage door, do people have a hard time? I guess maybe in general, if people run into you in the street, is there a hard time separating the Duke from the Tam? Like, do they think, because you're sitting here, you're smiling, you're cheerful, you're friendly, like you're not a bad guy?
No, I don't think so. I think half the time at stage door, to be fair, excuse me, there's another guy in the show called Max Clayton, who I adore, and he goes out, and a lot of the time they think he's me, so he literally signs a lot of things, and they just say, "Oh, we loved your performance, you're so good." And he says, "Oh, thank you very much." He tells me about it every day. I'm like, for goodness sake, Max. But he thinks it's funny. I'm just going to give him a little shout out there. Generally, people at stage door are nice, and they like what the version we've sort of put across it is. They do like that. Some people are surprised that I actually am British, which is kind of funny. But overall, no, I try and be. I'm kind of chill with stuff like that. I've always you go and just say hello to everybody at stage door if you can, I don't take it that seriously either. It's I try and just be respectful with everybody, and give it's nice that they've come backstage, well, not backstage, but to the door to give their time. So you just try and smile and be polite, rather than shout at them. Get out.
Get out of my way.
Get out of my way.
I'm tired.
Yeah.
I'm tired.
Yeah. Be a bit more Duke-like. Just throw money at them and walk off.
I think we're used to get out of here. We're used to hearing so many American actors, I think, doing British accents, that when we hear a real British actor, we're like, "Oh, that doesn't sound right."
Yeah, well, there's things that with England, there's so many variants to it, though. There's so many dialects and stuff. So you've got to be, I've heard some brilliant Americans do British accents, and I've heard some real whoppers, real shocking ones. But it's good. But it depends on what they're doing as well, because there are some really hard ones to do, like some of the dialects in England. Even I can't do them.
Do you do a good American accent?
Yeah.
Everyone could do like cowboy.
I try to do. But again, it's practice. You have to. People just think you can just do these things, but you have to practice. I don't find it anything overly easy. I just, especially when you've been speaking in your own accent for a while, because the majority of musical theatre things you do are generally American anyway. Mm-hmm. So to then come and do something where I'm actually British is kind of rare, but it's fun. So then when I have to switch back and do American accents for, auditions or TVs or whatever, it's, you have to work. I have to work.
Are you still auditioning a lot now? Like you're in this show that obviously is going to run for a while.
Not a lot, because obviously we're still there till till the season's up. So, but I mean, it depends what comes in and televisions and things like that. If they're like guest roles and things like that, we the majority of us can do. But anything that's sort of nothing significant enough to take us away from the show at this moment.
Does
I'm there for a while.
Does that stress you out to like be in a show but always having to be looking for your next job?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know any actor that isn't always nervous about work. It's just part of the game, I think. It's kind of rare when you get these shows as well, which is so successful very quickly, and you know that you're in something which is going to run for a bit. So it's always that that tricky sort of decision you sort of make, like when's the right time to step away from something as well. That's always hard, I think, because obviously when you're in something successful, there are a lot of eyes on you and people want you to go and do their things, but it doesn't necessarily mean that's the right move or right fit for you at that sort of time. So I mean, I think of some of the Hamilton people that that when I think they literally just won all the awards, and then literally most of them had left, by the time, straight after Tony's, which to me seemed a bit kind of sad, because, you wanted to see all their great work. I mean, I was lucky enough to see them, but it's a tricky one. I think, how long's too long in something? Some people stay in shows. I know friends who've stayed in shows for 4, 5, 6, and been very happy doing it. But obviously, if things come in that you're interested in and you want to do, then you have to sort of weigh up the pros and cons of everything. So tricky.
Well, what was the longest time you were unemployed? Do you remember? I mean, because you have the benefit of, I believe, being able to go back to West End, and you've got a career out there, and you've got your name out here. You've got a career out here as well. So are you? I mean, now it must be easier now to find work than it was 10 years ago, but.
I don't know. I think it's kind of evolves though, because as you get older, you kind of go into different sort of categories, because the pool of talent is so huge. There's so many people that are super talented, and there's always someone newer or fresher or that's not saturated the market so much. So people like seeing new people as well. I mean, not to say they don't like seeing, experienced people who've done a lot. You always have to be on top of your game. And I wouldn't say it's easier. I don't think it's ever easier. I think it's just I do think you still need a lot of luck, and I think you need to be dedicated. And I also think you sort of have to follow your heart a little bit as well, with your choices, and be happy with your choices. Because, for example, if you want to be in a show, that is an eight shows a week, schedule, which is going to take you out of a lot of other things. But that's this, the sacrifice you make. And the pros of that are like, you're in steady work and you're there for a significant amount of time. And, but like then the next, you can argue most actors like always want to be doing new things, like consistently working on different projects, but it doesn't always work that way. And if that's what you want to do, then you have to be happy with that, and then be prepared to be, free and out of work at times, which is also scary, especially in a city like, this city is an expensive city to live in.
Absolutely.
And London's not cheap either. So, it's neither's LA, but it's all a juggling act, I think. I don't think there's ever any right or wrong, and I do think you need luck and to be, one thing I'm always trying to do is be kind to myself, which I find really hard because I'm really hard on myself, but trying to be kinder to myself with decisions and with what I'm doing, and to try and be more present, which is really hard in this day and age, because you find everyone's always on their phones or like scatterbrains, everywhere. And to actually just be present in the moment with what you're doing is really, 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 really hard. So, and to be happy with that. It's like kind of a lesson in a sense. I mean, not that I want to be preachy, but, I find it really, really hard to do that, because there's always something. When you're in a city like this, with, not just the musical theatre, but the TV industry here and everything. There's always something going on. There's always a new show coming up. There's always another, pool to be in, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So it's it's teaching yourself and being kind to yourself and saying, hey, I'm doing this right now. I'm going to give this my all. And when I'm ready, I'll do, just trusting that there's going to be another door. Because, there's always another door. It just might not be exactly line up with how you want it to.
I guess, are you a person that needs to be kind of moving around at a quicker pace, or can you settle into something and feel happy with it? Because my mom used to tell me I have spielkies, which is, I think, Yiddish for pins and needles, like I can't sit still.
No, I'm a fidget. I'm an absolute fidget. I literally can't sit still. And I'm like that with work as well. I can get fidgety in work, if I'm in something for which is, unless I feel fulfilled. I think it's when you're not feeling fulfilled. But again, that goes back to what do you need? What do you need to fulfill you? So I think it's they're all lessons. They are, because it's especially as you get older, you kind of learn to appreciate things more, or have to appreciate things more, and make sacrifices, because not everything is perfect, and ultimately, the only thing you do is end up getting frustrated with yourself, because I could be doing this, or I could be doing that. Well,
nothing's ever good enough.
Nothing's ever good enough. So the grass is always greener, and I don't think it is. It's just so you just have to try and learn to go, hey, I'm doing this. This is great, and I'm and try and enjoy what you're doing. And that's what I'm been working hard to do, and sort of. Which is a challenge, but I'm learning. It's maybe slower than most.
So I was going to ask if that's like a recent thing to be okay just sitting where you are, or
yeah, it is, because how often do you get to be in a hit show? Some of them, it's I speak from experience. I've been in one that didn't even make curtain, and I've been in one that's died after 2 weeks. And the rest have been, I've had some wonderful jobs, but you learn from those. And then when you get something which is an instant hit, and people respond to it and love it, and it's going to go around the world and do very well, and you're the original person, what's not to love about that? It's that's something to cherish always, and to be working with the people and the team that I've worked with, I'm very, very grateful, and I think you need to remember that as well. Because success is it's a double-edged sword. Because, like I said, you then go on that train where there's always something else, and people want you for something else, but you sort of lose sight of what's sort of got you there very quickly. You can very quickly sort of forget yourself. So that to me is I'm sort of I have been learning or working on, and I'm grateful for what I'm doing, and I love my job, and I hope that sort of resonates with people when they see it. It's not to say that it's easy, because it isn't. Nothing's easy. You have to work at it, and it's 8 shows a week is a grind. But it's try and look on the bright side of things, because it could be you could be out of work, you could be sitting there twiddling your thumbs.
You could have a cast you don't like either. The cast,
well, that's another thing.
The cast seems incredible.
You could be in the best job ever, and there'd be a horrible cast around you, and you're like, oh well, I can't wait to leave this, because it's it's not a pleasant place to work. And luckily all my cast are awful, so
so you're the role model.
Yeah. No, I mean, my cast is wonderful. The team did really well. They picked a group of people that get on well, they work well together, and that's I think that shows. I think you can tell.
Oh yeah, no, the watching everybody on stage is such a treat, and the energy. I mean, once the train pulls out of the station, it just doesn't stop.
Right.
The choreography and the music, the arrangements. I mean, literally millions spent on licensing. How many songs are in the show? Over 70. Oh yeah, over 70 songs.
And that's all the ones that made it. I mean, we had so many that didn't make it, some great stuff that didn't get, sadly we couldn't get, and things that changed or things that weren't right. And Justin's like a catalogue in himself of musical brilliance. It's been one of those things as well with musicals, and people just think, oh, there's a musical coming on, it's done. But this has been like so long in the making, and like the time and the energy and the money and that goes into it to sort of get to this final stage and this product that we, say product, but like this production.
The presentation.
That we have has been, a lot of work and a lot of people's time and energy. And there have been things which, they've had to iron out and be ruthless with. I mean, there was another song I loved in the show which didn't make it, Shake It Out, which the Lady M sang with Ziedler and Satine. It was so good. But it got cut.
Do the original artists like Rihanna, Rolling Stones, and all these people, have they come to see the show?
We've had a few, but not as many as we'd like, actually. So
Really?
if you're listening in to me on this podcast, please, Rihanna, come see the show. Don't be lazy. Rolling Stones, come along. Now, we've had a few, but I'm trying to think who came. Not as many as we'd like.
That was actually a question from one of my patrons. I have a Patreon account. They can submit their questions of who is your favorite celebrity who's come to see the show.
Ooh, we've had some great celebrities come. We had Hillary Clinton came the other week.
Oh, yeah.
Great. Yeah, she was great with her daughter, Chelsea. And I think there was someone else, but I couldn't see who it was. I'm one of these people that doesn't like to know when people are in. But then literally I get up after my entrance, I get up to the booth with the girls, and literally they're like, such and such is in. Because they've been scouring the floor, because like when they do the opening, they're like, I'm like, for God's sake. But because I just don't like to know. I'm one of these people. I get, I'm nervous enough as it is. I don't need to be more nervous because Jessica Lange's in or something, which she was great. Who else came that I was a bit starstruck? Jessica Lange did like knock me for six a little bit. She came with Sarah Paulson, the pair of them.
Oh wow,
they had a great time. Amy Adams came. Drew Barrymore was lovely. She was so sweet. She loved it. Yeah. There's been a few.
Do you still get nervous before you go out?
I'm nervous every day.
Really?
Yeah. That's just I'm a little bit like that in nature anyway, because that's the fidget inside me kind of. I think I care a lot about what I do. People think I'm crazy, I think. But no, I do. I do always get. I always put it down to like when I finish my show every night, I'm always sort of proud of myself, and that's not to sound
like I made it.
Yeah, but no, it is there is an element of that. It's like great job you got through another show. It's kind of there's a sense of achievement with that. I don't take any show lightly. I've always been that way. I've always like gone out there and tried to be as focused as I can, and because it matters to me and obviously the public coming to see it, they've not seen it before. You don't know that they've seen it before, and it's their first experience. So you want to give them the best experience that you can. And so, if I'm not laser focused, then, I don't want to give them a wishy-washy sort of performance. So I'm always like that. I do care about my show. But yeah, I do. I've always been nervy. Always. It gets better when I go out. It's usually the pre stuff.
Yeah.
Waiting around.
Yeah. When you start getting in your own head, I've been the same way. Like back in my performing days, it was the waiting, the going, like am I going to miss my cue? And then as soon as you're out there,
it's fine.
The lights hit you. You're like, all right, here I am. Here's my element.
Yeah.
And I would be the same way too. If it was like I don't need to know that Michelle or Barack are out there.
No,
like I want to give the same 100%.
I know some people thrive off that. Yeah. They love it. They think I'm like I can't know because I just like all you do is then start thinking about you straight away out your head and thinking about Barack Obama staring at you. It's like, wow, I don't need that. Thank you. I don't need that pressure.
It's like, but at the end of the day, it's kind of a double-edged sword because you want it to like you, but at the end of the day, like it doesn't matter.
No,
ultimately,
it doesn't matter.
Like
no,
you.
You're right. It doesn't matter. It's like it's still the show. You want to do. You've got to get from A to Z. It's the same thing.
I mean, if you do your job, people are not going to like you because the Duke should not be liked.
Oh, I don't know though. A lot of people are like, I don't know why she picks Christian. I'm like, really? You do realize that I'm quite dark in the second night. They're like, yeah, but I don't know. There's something about that Duke. I'm like, wow. Says a lot about people, I think.
People like a bad boy.
Yeah. Says a lot about people.
All right. Well, let's wrap this up here. And there are 3 standard closing questions that I ask everybody on the podcast. The first one is very simply, what motivates you?
What motivates me? To always try and be better than I am, I think. To keep learning. Not take things for granted. I think that's my overall motivation. Like, and I take that into my like personal life as well. You know, just to try and keep growing and learning, because you know it's like a roller coaster which you're on, and you kind of can't sort of sit around and expect things and have these kind of sort of, you know, just expectations of like, you can't be like, you can't sit on your backside and expect things to come to you. You've got to, you know, you've got to work. I think you have to work in your professional life consistently and in your personal life, and I think that's so. Just not take things for granted, I'd say, is probably a big one.
All right. And then second one is, what advice would you give to your younger self and younger people listening now, starting out down a similar path?
Ooh, that's a good one. Don't do it. No,
I've heard that so many times.
Stay away.
Don't do it.
I would say be kinder to yourself. Know that it's a journey. It's not like it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. Although it does feel like a sprint most days, but it isn't. You can fail, and that's fine. That's a big one, because you learn a lot from failures. It's all very well, like, you know, being successful shows and doing well and feeling on top of the world, but it's when you hit the lows and things aren't going so well, it's when you learn the most, I think, because then it should make you appreciate everything else that's sort of around you and when things are good. So I'd say one for me would be, you know, be kinder to myself, maybe be more patient with myself as well. I struggle with that. That's a huge one, to be patient. But kindness and patience,
Okay.
and that goes towards like giving it to people as well. To be that way with other people, to be more kind and to be more patient with other people around you as well, because everyone's on their journey and, you know, they're finding their way.
You didn't know what happened to them this morning that
Exactly.
caused them to be snippy. Yeah, whatever
Totally.
it is. Yeah. Okay, so the final question is, if you could only see one show for the rest of your life, but you can see it as many times as you want, what would you see?
Oh, I'll say two. One's Moulin Rouge, because just to see those people every day is, you know, it's a joy.
Watching it or being in it?
No, I would like to watch it, actually. That'd be nice to do, just to experience them all giving their wonderful selves. I haven't had that opportunity yet. But I'd probably say Sweeney Todd, maybe. Maybe Sweeney Todd.
I get a lot of Sweeney Todd. That is a popular one.
I don't know. Sweeney Todd, maybe. I do like that show.
Well,
That's on my bucket list, though, so that's probably why. But yeah, let's go Moulin Rouge. Everyone come and see it.
Well, we can find you on Instagram and Twitter at Tam Mutu.
Yes.
You can find me at thetheaterpodcast.com. Support the podcast via thetheaterpodcast.com/Patreon. I am on Instagram and Twitter at theater_podcast or facebook.com/officialtheaterpodcast. Please leave a rating, leave a review. Tell your friends. This is edited by Matthew Hendershot. Thank you to Jukebox the Ghost for the intro and outro music. And Tam Mutu, thank you for being here. This has been wonderful.
Thank you so much for having me. Bless you.
Take a deep breath, make the world a little colorful.